sir, Mr. Ducksworth. Thank you very much, Mr. Ducksworth. Quack, 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 Mr. Ducksworth. Quack, 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 quack. Stop. Quack, quack, quack. Quack, quack, quack. Quack, 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 quack. Quack, 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 quack. You may have paid for this jersey, sir, but you didn't earn it. I'll see you in the playoffs.
I don't know why that says tracking quest across there. Sorry, having a technical situation here. Let's get rid of that. Hello, Buckeyes. Today is New Year's Eve, a day before, almost 24 hours before we take the field against the Oregon Quackers. Oh man, I'm having a lot of fun here. I hope everyone else is having fun. College football's been pretty exciting. Today, all the Bama fans that did some talking about OSU, you just lost to Michigan's backups. So I don't want to hear it. We lost to their starters. You lost to their, well, there were a few backups in the secondary. I got to be real, but you lost to Bama's backups overall, or I'm sorry, to Michigan's backups overall. So take that. I don't know. I'm trying to take the wins I can. But last time I talked to you, we were gearing up for the Tennessee game, and I was nervous, as many Buckeye fans were nervous, because they're a better version of Michigan in many ways, and Ohio State did not disappoint. For the first time this season, we saw the team that we knew was there, but just never showed up on the field, never translated. None of us Buckeye fans were sure why, but it is what it is. It doesn't matter. We're in the playoffs, and now it's here. So many of us are pretty excited about the upcoming game against Oregon. First, I just want to mention to Tennessee fans, if you do check this video out, I just want to say Nico, and I can't pronounce his last name, I'm not even going to try, is one bad dude. And I don't care what anybody says. The man cracked 2 helmets. I think it was him. 2 helmets were cracked that night. One of them were his for sure. And the dude kept getting up like Rocky Balboa. Do not give up on this young man, okay? Just get him some wide receivers. The dude's got a lot of talent. He's got a lot of speed. He's a great athlete. Don't give up on him. And, you know, a lot of crazy things happened at the beginning of that game. But before you could even blink, it was 21-0. So I don't even think the loss of Dylan Sampson would have affected the game in any way, shape, or form, because Ohio State was just scoring too fast whenever they wanted. And, you know, it could have even been 28-0. It could have been even worse. And in the entire fourth quarter, I have never seen this before in a playoff. I've never seen this before in my life. We were putting in backups. And what's funny is our second string defense actually made stops on Tennessee. Now, Tennessee got one last touchdown against our third and fourth stringers. So they didn't, you know, they never gave up. They kept fighting even though they knew they were out of the game. But, yeah, Ohio State really showed up. Will Howard, 311 yards. 24 for 29, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, which, yeah, the interception, you know, it's one of those things. Yeah, he was interfered with. Yeah, that could have been called. It was a wild catch with 1 foot down at the back of the end zone. What are the odds? So credit to Tennessee for that. Trevion Henderson had 10 carries for 80 yards. And Jeremiah Smith had 6 receptions for 103 yards. That's insane. Imagine if we would have decided to target him some more. But, you know, it didn't matter. At that point, we won the game when we went up 21-0. Final score 42-17. Our defense was playing with our hair on fire. It was just insane. Tennessee really had no time to do anything. Nico tried. He tried to move in the pocket. He did everything he could, but he couldn't throw. He doesn't have the wide receivers to match up with our defensive backs and safeties. And, you know, they had 2 drives the whole game, and one of them was with our backups. So, it wasn't close. It was actually much bigger blowout than that. So kudos to Tennessee, though. You made it this far. You had a 10-win season, double digits in the SEC. Kudos to you guys. I know you're not feeling great, but you made the playoffs, the inaugural 12-team playoff, and that's a huge, victory for your fans. And your fans were amazing. They showed up in high numbers, not as high as ESPN said. That was highly exaggerated, okay? But I mean, it was more fans than typically shows up at stadiums, which is how it should be in the playoffs, okay? If we're going to have home games in the playoffs, the visiting team does deserve to get access to more tickets. Okay, so I think that's fine. But yeah, uh, I'm sorry. Jackson, our offensive lineman, um, he said that when they were coming out to practice before the game, that that Tennessee fans started booing at them, and it actually made the team angry that they did that. And so, thank you, Tennessee fans, for helping make our team even more angry than they already were, because they sure did play like it. So yeah, but anyways, moving on from that game, Ohio State feels pretty confident going into this game against Oregon. This will be a rematch, obviously. Anybody that has a pulse probably already knows that. But coming up to this rematch, a couple things have to happen differently than what happened before. Uh, and I'll go over those in a second. But first, I do want to talk about what's going on in some of these bowl games, because it's pretty wild. The Big Ten's actually showing out pretty well. USC beat a Texas A&M team that was one win away from the SEC championship game. Obviously, they lost to Texas, but they were one win away from the SEC championship game, and a very mid USC team beat them. Now I know there's a lot of players that aren't playing in bowl games. It's really hard to assess those games sometimes, but it's just wild that USC beat two SEC teams this year, and that was pretty cool. So the playoff field that we have is going to be a lot of fun. Of course, tonight we have Penn State versus Boise State. Um, I really don't think that game's going to be that close. However, it could be a little low scoring just because of the way that Penn State likes to play. They're kind of like the style that Nick Saban's Bama teams used to like to play. They're not aiming to score 50 points really. They want to run clock. They want to get touchdowns. They want to get a lead. They want to keep running clock. They want to methodically go down the field. They want to get turnovers. They're not really a high scoring team, so it could be a little closer than than a lot of people might expect. Of course, if Boise State is able to run the ball, it could be even closer than the line. I think the line's at like 12.5. I think it is. I don't know if it's moved, but I expect Penn State to fully cover that. I don't think Boise State can throw the ball, and Penn State is built to stop the run, so that's a huge problem. But maybe Boise State will surprise me. But in my opinion, I think Penn State covers that line. I think that they win. It may be bigger, like 20 points. Again, there's a few things that could change that around, but that's my pick, anyways. Of course, the other game that's before our game tomorrow is Texas versus Arizona State. Just watching the way that the Big 12 has performed. Wait, Arizona State's in the Big 12 now, right? Yeah, they moved from the Pac-12 to the Big 12. Hard to keep up with all these changes. The way that the rest of the Pac-12 is playing, or the former Pac-12 teams are playing, um, that are in the Big 12, just the way the Big 12 in general is playing, I don't think the game's going to be close. I always root on underdogs when it's not my team, but I don't see them coming close to Texas. I think Texas's defensive front and their defensive backs are too good for Arizona State to throw the ball, and being one dimensional with Scadaboo is as good as he is a bad situation for Arizona State. So I fully expect Texas to cover. And before I get to our game, I'm going to actually skip to the later game, the game after ours, Notre Dame versus Georgia tomorrow. This is the late game, the last game of the second round. So this game is actually highly intriguing because teams are built kind of similar. I don't, with Beck, I think Georgia would have the throwing advantage over Notre Dame, but I think Notre Dame, regardless, has the running advantage. So my biggest question is, can Notre Dame run the ball on Georgia? I think they can, and I do think that they will. And I think they'll just throw in just enough throws to get on the board. The big question is will Georgia make a late game rally to win the game like they've been doing all season? And that's the big question. Can Notre Dame physically outlast Georgia? Because in my opinion, and this is not to take away from the talent that Notre Dame has, because they have plenty of talent. Okay, Notre Dame is a talented team. Their defensive front is the real deal, and they will make it very hard to move the ball on Georgia. But Georgia has better overall talent. And the big question is can those guys last in the fourth quarter? This is the one game that I think there could be a big upset if Notre Dame can last into the fourth quarter. And so far from what I've seen in the SEC, I do believe Notre Dame can get it done. Now, I don't know if they will get it done. I think this game's too close for me to call. Um, but if I will say that if Gunnar Stockton is not ready for for the big time yet, or if he's not ready for this matchup, it could actually get ugly if he turns the ball over, because Notre Dame's defense is just that good. So I I think Notre Dame's going to win a close game. I really do. And I think Notre Dame advances against Penn State. I think Notre Dame versus Penn State will be the next round. That's my prediction. Okay, so I've picked three of the games. So now let's talk about Oregon. As you know, as everybody knows, Ohio State and Oregon matched up in Autzen. Uh, it was a final score of 31-32. The Ducks got a 1 point victory. And if you just look at that, you're like, okay, that was a close game. Okay, and Ducks fans feel confident because that was a close game. They feel like there were drives that they could have, hit the pay dirt and made it even a wider margin. But us Buckeye fans also feel the same way. Now, Will Howard threw for 326 yards, 28 for 35 for 2 touchdowns, and Henderson had 10 carries for 87 yards. He also had some passing yards thrown in there. He had a really good game, but in the second half he was shut down. And Jeremiah Smith had 9 receptions for 100 yards. I think that we should actually throw to him a little bit more in this game than we did in the last one. But here's the thing about this game. This game was fluky. It was wild. It was crazy. There were just some strange things that kept happening in the game. For instance, we're driving down the field, and Will Howard is close to scoring, and all of a sudden he fumbles, and we don't get the touchdown, and it's and you're just like, well, what happened? And then Quinshon Judkins, he didn't have a great game in that game, but he had the ball, and it looked like he was about to go get a touchdown. And the Oregon defender knocks the ball out of his hands, and we lose our score that we were going to get there. Those 2 turnovers. But in addition to that, we had 3 offensive linemen get injured in the game, and 1 got knocked out for the season. I think 2 of the offensive linemen did come back in the game, but they were obviously dinged up. Okay. In addition to that, we had a strange pass interference call. I think that the guy flopped and sold it a little more than it was. It being what it is, though, it was called, and it cost us yards. And of course, the game ended with Will Howard going down. It would have been in field goal range. And from the looks of the clock, I would argue that there was 1 second left when he downed it, and then they called timeout. and we should have at least had a chance to kick a field goal. But all of a sudden, you see everybody walking off the field, the refs walking off the field. They're shaking their heads, no, we're not even going to look at it. Game's over. It was a strange game. In addition to that, Autzen Stadium, the way it's built, the crowd is just off of the field, and 5 yards off the field. That makes it a loud stadium. So they had all of the fans. They had a lot of things bounce their way, and I'm not making excuses. I'm just saying that's what happened, and that gave them a 1 point victory. The reason that I feel really good about Ohio State's chances in this game is because A, we played that first game, and we have momentum going into this game. B, our offensive line has been shaken up so many times, but we seem to have found the right combination to be able to get enough of a push to A, protect our quarterback, and B, get a little bit of a run game going. Now, I said against Tennessee, we want to try and get both of our running backs 70 to 80 yards. That didn't fully happen. Henderson did get 80 yards. Quinshawn did not. However, if you add it up, it's still 150 yards. And Will Howard did get his runs in the game as well, because I think he had like 30 something yards. So that formula carries over to this game. We need about 150 yards rushing like the last game. We need Will Howard to get between 250 to 350 yards passing. And we do need to make sure there's no turnovers this game. And we need to make sure, the false starts that were affecting us in the crowd, hopefully that won't happen. I think this is going to be a mixed crowd. Probably more Buckeye fans just because of how well we travel. So that should help the false start penalties. So we need to eliminate those. We need to make sure Igbinosun is not causing penalties against the wide receivers. And Igbinosun was covering that Oregon wide receiver, and the wide receiver spit in his face, so he was ejected. I guess he wasn't too happy. I think that was Trayshawn Holden was his name. He wasn't. He only really had one catch in the game before he got ejected out of the game. But just thinking about all of those weird things that happened, I believe this game's going to be a more disciplined game from the Buckeyes. They're going to show up and they're going to play better. I think Igbinosun is not going to commit all those penalties. And the other thing is about this matchup, obviously Oregon has one of the best offenses in the country, but we have changed the way that our defense works completely from last time. This is a different defense. And I know our defense gave up chunks of yards, but our scouting report told our staff that Oregon throws the short passes down the field. They don't go deep. And then all of a sudden, we prepared for that. And I think that Burke himself was moving on that tendency that they were going to go short, and they went deep. So the wide receiver would make a double move and cut a different way than he expected. So the scouting report didn't tell the story, which is a brilliant plan from Dan Lanning and his staff. So credit where credit's due. But I believe that Burke saw those tendencies and he'll improve on that. But in addition to that, Matthews is coming in a lot to help out, keep fresh legs. But Matthews might be the best defensive back on our team besides our safeties, Caleb Downs. But Matthews might be the best corner on the team, and which is wild because he actually plays backup to Burke. But just getting that rotation in should help us, at least limit the damage that they do. In addition to that, we have instead of having I'm forgetting his name. Sorry, Jordan. Why am I forgetting? Jordan Hancock. Sorry about that. Instead of moving Jordan Hancock in the middle of the field like we were doing last game, we've actually switched him to the backfield further back, and we put Caleb Downs more towards the middle. So Caleb Downs is playing kind of a hybrid role. Not only is he a safety, but he's kind of playing like a linebacker as well, and he's able to help out with the middle of the field. I believe that there's going to be a mix of him and Cody Simon spying Dylan Gabriel, trying to stop the play action because the last game the play action play killed us at the end, and even though we still had a chance to win, we were in the lead most of the second half, and that play action play killed us. So I think Caleb Downs is going to come up and help with that, and that'll make a difference. But if you really look at like how our defense performed in the last game, a lot of people remember it as the worst performance of the season, which it was. But if you really look at what Burke has done all year long, except for that game, you'll realize that if Burke just plays to his game, his level, we actually limited their defense minus those big plays that Burke gave up. We actually did a really good job of limiting their defense, especially in their offense, I mean, especially in the second half. So if Burke plays more disciplined in this game, which I believe he will, I think we actually can limit them to scoring, 20, maybe like to 20 points or so, and 17 to 20 points. I think our defense is that much better than it was in October, and I think that's going to be the difference in the game. I know that our offense can move the ball. Obviously, they're going to try different looks on us, but the way that we were shifting players against Tennessee will cause a lot of disruption in what the defense wants to do. If we continue to do that, if we continue to rotate I believe we were rotating the tackles in the game, or we were doing a little bit of rotation between, which sounds weird on an offensive line, but it actually worked. And if we continue to rotate our defensive players, for instance, Kenyatta Jackson came in the game. Obviously, Matthews came in the game. So we saw some fresh, younger players come into the game to keep us fresh at the end. If we do that, I believe that Ohio State's going to come up with a victory tomorrow. Now, I know everybody says you're an Ohio State fan. Of course, you pick that. But I also think I'm being rational here. Ohio State's defense is unlikely to play bad against the same team twice. And the reason that is because our defense is ranked number one in the country. That was the only aberration of the season. We haven't allowed a single passing touchdown since that Oregon game. And I don't believe we allowed one before the Oregon game. So the Oregon game's it. Those are the only passing touchdowns we've allowed all season. And I believe that makes a huge difference. Our team has grown. Our offense has grown. Obviously, we did have one bad game, but after we rested and got fresh and got our offensive line playing well, our offense started clicking again. So, what do I think will happen? I think our offense will perform just as well as it did before, but I think our defense will perform better. I think we'll eliminate the turnovers, and minus those turnovers, minus those mishaps and mistakes. For instance, the kick that Oregon did, they got an onside kick on us, and it hit our player, bounced off of them. They got the kickoff, onside kick. We eliminate that. All those different factors. It was only a 1 point loss on the road with all of those mistakes. If we even eliminate half of those mistakes, I think Ohio State wins, not only wins, but by double digits. Okay, so this is a big game. This is the Rose Bowl. Our fans show out in the Rose Bowl. They have statistics, or historically anyways. But because of the different environment, because we have experience at the Rose Bowl, because this is win or you're done, because of what we're playing for, because we're clicking at the right time. I believe that Ohio State secures this victory 42-17. I believe it'll be like 42-24 is what I'm picking. I believe that towards the end of the game, it'll be like maybe it'll be 28-17, and I believe like late in the fourth quarter we'll get 2 scores and make the margin wider, and then Oregon will get a score at the end of the game, but it'll be too much for them to overcome. So I'm picking our Bucks to win tomorrow. I'm picking them to win big because of all the things that I mentioned. And the reason is they're going to continue. Will Howard's going to run just enough to give them something to worry about. They're going to use the misdirections and movement on the line and with our players to get a running game going just enough to give them something to worry about. And they're going to throw it over the top just a few times to soften that defense up. Ohio State 42, Oregon 24. That's my pick. Hey, what is everybody? If you watch this video, please like, subscribe, leave a comment. I like interacting with people. I know nobody really knows about me yet, but I want to hear what you have to say. If you're an Oregon fan, tell me why I'm wrong. That's okay. That's the fun of college football. When you tell me why I'm wrong, tell me what you think Oregon's going to do to prove me wrong. Interact with me. Tennessee fans, interact with me. Tell me, what you think about next season, how next season looks. You feeling pretty good about next season? Or any fan, come on in and talk to me, and hopefully we can all have some fun. But anyways, Buckeyes win big. Moving on to the next round, I believe they'll be playing Texas next round. That's my prediction. Anything can happen, but that's my prediction. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Like I said, I'm a small channel. Barely anybody knows about me. So if you give me a like and a subscribe and you comment, it really would help me grow. Thank you very much. Have a great day and go